Hi everyone, I'm Tosca Di Matteo and welcome to Talk About It Tuesday. I'm going to be here with Lina Clivajo in just a moment here when she joins, and today we're going to talk about resilience. I'm really excited to have you join me here today. I might be a little shiny. I'm a little shiny because it's hot here in New York, and my AC is busted. But yeah, we're going to talk about resilience. And the reason why I'm doing these series is because I want to have all kinds of voices be heard and to share their wisdom and their insights and help us all in our efforts to grow and heal and live our best life. And Lina will certainly be able to help us with that. I have no doubt. So she'll be joining in just a minute. You know how this IG Live thing works. It's not like immediate. So yeah, and we're going to talk about, I think we're going to define resilience. We're going to talk about that you don't have to be born with resilience, that it's actually a skill set that you can develop. And Lina, I know, feels very strongly about that. Yeah. And I think that her life certainly has shown her resilience over and over and over again. Lina is a dear friend of mine, former colleague, and someone I consider my chosen family. Actually, in my recent blog post titled something like Learning Lessons from Distant Destinations, I talk about chosen family. But yeah. So I'm excited to have you here and tuning in. And this will be available after it runs live on my Instagram handle at Tosca Di Matteo. So here we go. I think we're going to get started. Sorry for the delay here. We're just waiting for Lina to join. Here we are.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, my friend. How are you doing?
Very good. I think I picked a little bit of a wrong spot with the sun, but that will inspire me.
Well, you are glowing for sure, and the sun
Thanks.
only helps. Um, yeah, so I just, before you jumped on, I was kind of giving a little bit of a preamble about like how I know you and also that we're going to talk about resilience today. And I was sharing also why I started Talk About It Tuesday because I am very excited about giving people all different kinds of voices and all different kinds of perspectives to learn from in terms of our growth, our healing, and living our best life. Um, and that's why I'm excited to have you on today. So thank you for agreeing to do this and for picking such an amazing and super relevant topic today.
Well, it's a big topic, I think, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. So let's jump into it. I mean, first, I'd love to know, like, what do you want to share about yourself? Like, help those who are watching both live today and also in the future as after it's posted. What do you want people to know about you?
Um, that's kind of a difficult question. I think that I just want to people, let know that I am an open book, that I hope that any experience I have lived through life inspires or helps other people, including my family, my close friends, or anybody out there. I think that I have lived a very happy, interesting life with no dull moments and a lot of challenges. And I just, want to thank you for the opportunity to like let the message out there that no matter what you face in life, there's always, like way outs and how to grow out of it. And then, talking is a therapy. And then, we should take these opportunities like these to, talk to other people and let your thoughts out. I am a mother of two incredible human beings. I am a marketer by heart and by profession, and maybe a little bit of a dreamer. I'm Colombian, and but I spend a lot of time of my life in Puerto Rico, so I define myself as Colombo Rican. And I have a great deal of love for that island and all of that the island has given me. So I don't know what else to share. Just a couple of nuggets.
Oh no, that's so beautiful. I love the invitation, and your vulnerability, and I know because I know you, and also because I feel with what you're saying that you're here to be, you are a healer. You're here in service. I know that's in your heart, and so I'm so glad that you're here, and you've already got several fans on here. Hey, Shagay and Grace and everybody. Yeah, yeah, this is great. So I guess, we started having a conversation not that long ago around like, well, how do we define resilience? So maybe that's like somewhere to start with this conversation.
And I think that based on that conversation that you and I initially had, it gave me a lot of thought because I think that resilient, it's an old word, obviously, but I think that the term has become like fashion, and we instantly connect resilience with being strong or with strength. And I think that there is a level of strength that you need to have as a human being, but resilience is beyond whatever strength that you have. And at the beginning, when you asked me about, to talk about resilience, one of my first reactions, like, I have not like climbed Mount Everest, or I haven't like, run a marathon. What am I going to talk about resilience? And I think that we all, as human beings, face things in our lives that require that resilience, and we shouldn't think that we cannot develop it, or that we actually have to go through really hard times to develop it. Um, there are many people that work in their physical muscles to be able to lift weights or run marathons, and we don't practice like a spiritual development. So we develop that emotional muscle. Then when things really come our way, we're ready to face them. Um, and I think that there was a part of me that felt that if I talked about resilience, it was a little bit arrogant, or why am I, you know. But that also led me to think, I have to own my experiences. And there are other people out there that see me as a resilient person, and if that's the case, I should embrace it and just don't be like shy about it. And coming from a place of being humble about it, but owning it as a trademark of who I am. And the other thing is that sometimes, you could also feel intimidated to define yourself as something, and in this case, as resilient, because then you think that you are like committed to be strong all of the time, because people are waiting, are expecting that you are strong and that you overcome and it's not necessarily true, because we all have our moments and we all have the right to be weak or to be lost at some point. So I think that through the years, I have come to understand resilience from a different perspective, and I think that yes, maybe in my personality, my upbringing, and the experiences I've had, I have become that resilient. But I think that at the beginning of my life and with the first experiences, I was very reactive. And now that I am a little bit more mature, I think that I come more from a place of responding. And when you are aware that you have the capability or the capacity or the choice to respond, then you can start working on those skills that are going to build that resilience that is going to help you, face whatever life throws at you.
I love it. Oh my gosh, you just dropped so much like so
Funny.
much amazing information and wisdom. And, there's several things that I just want to like kind of pull out. And by the way, let me know if you can hear wind because I have my fan
No.
on right here. Okay. Yeah, like Shige talks about react versus respond. And that was one of the things I want to talk to you more about because this is a concept that I definitely, share with my clients as well in terms of how can we take responsibility and slow things down and choose how we respond versus being reactive, which can come from a triggering place. At least that's how I think of react versus respond. And I'm curious, like, if you can expand on what that means for you, and if you have any examples of like when you started to shift that in yourself.
I think that, one of the first experiences that set me off in the resilience, was my divorce 14 years ago. And at that moment, I didn't have a choice because I have two kids and I needed to go into fixing mode. And I have to go through the experience, as best as I could because I had to, just keep going. But looking back, I never took the time to grieve my marriage. I never took the time to really connect to my feelings. I never took the time to show my vulnerability. I never took the time, to the point that actually sent the message to my younger kid that I didn't care about the divorce because I went in such a fixing mode and I put all the makeup and the face that I really didn't live the experience and live through the experience because I was reacting to it. And I think that, a couple of back years forward, one of the processes that I think I really learned that I needed to respond versus reacting was when I was laid off from my job in 2017. And I started working with a coach. And I think that person, Jenna, if you are connected, started to bring to me like the awareness of living through the process and to really being connected to what is going on and to making choices through whatever situation you are facing. Um, she taught me a little, method, if you will, that is called April. And the A stands for awareness. And I think that, you have to be aware of what is going on. You cannot change, you cannot work in something that you're not aware of. And then, then you go into being present, which is the P, for whatever you are living. So what is this happening? What can I do? Can I detach from it? How am I gonna like really present, process all of that is now that I am aware, how am I gonna be present and process all of this? And then you have to release part, it's a very important part of being resilient is letting things go and learning to move, to make the choice between moving on and moving forward. But you have to release that, I don't know how you want to call it, like, negative energy or grunge or resentment or whatever it is. And then you have to have an intention. You have to look at the future. And you have to have a purpose and find a purpose to whatever is going on in your life. And the last one, DL, I love it, not only because my name is Lina, it's because it stands for um, and it's a good learning to, you know, everything you do in your life has to come from a place of love and compassion to yourself and to other people. So I think that I approach, those two experiences from a very different perspective. Not that they were one more difficult than the other, but I did feel the difference between going through that divorce in a reactive mode and going through in a year and a half of looking for a new job and trying to find new ways to earn a living from a response, a place, and having the opportunity and the hunger to develop those skills that even if I already had some because of my personality and whatever, I became aware that there were more things that I could develop, and that I am still working on it, because sometimes I'm not that perfect, and I don't do things the way I'm probably preaching, because we all have emotions. And when those things happen, I think that what you need to do is just stop, give yourself a space to reconnect with yourself, rewind, and start all over again, basically.
Oh my gosh. I thank you for sharing. I think, the fact that you've been through a layoff situation, especially now when so many people are finding themselves in that situation, and just to hear, because I think it is so instinctual that people just are like, they just move right into, holy shit, I gotta find a job, and certainly financially there are lots of, people out there that need to do that. And even taking a nanosecond to like digest, like you said, grieving as part of the process of resilience. And I love that, because we don't really talk about grieving, like simple things like grieving, like that the job didn't come through, or you didn't get the job, or whatever, grieving disappointment, grieving being ghosted, grieving all kinds of things, because we just are like indoctrinated to just like move forward, move forward, move forward, don't pause, just keep going. And what I hear you saying is that it's in that pause that you can gather yourself to respond versus react.
Yes, I totally agree. And from your point, I think that we have become intoxicated with positivity.
Mm.
Um, say that because it's like we feel that it's an expectation to be positive, and then we get into this mode of, oh, I'm looking for a new job and this and that, and then you are just meeting other people's expectations. And let's be clear. If you let your being be full of negativity, you're going to attract negativity. But my point is that you have to find a balance, because you cannot be this, 2020 cable, that is all the time in positivity. And because we're humans, we don't function like that. And I
Right.
think also when you are in your low moments and in your darkness, or whatever you want to call it, you have to embrace it, because it is in that darkness that at some point you're going to find the light to come out. So I think that especially in these days that we're living with the pandemic and people losing their jobs, um, we have to work really hard, but we also have to be careful to getting into the fair, the circle of the fake positivity. Um,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, no, no.
I mean, you've got my mind going in like 18 different directions. And the thing that I want to bring up, which I think is important, and I don't know how much is talked about, but even when I think about when the whole Black Lives Matters movement started again, that there's a whole bunch of people highly triggered, right, highly emotional, and the expectation, or the just the historical, you know, people of color and all kinds of people coming into work and having to put on a face like everything is okay, and not everything is okay,
Yeah.
and how can we honor that? How can we honor what we're going through in all spaces, not just when you're at home, but also like, you know, um, changing workplace culture to say like, let's call a spade a spade. Let's honor what's really going on here and how we're feeling. And I think that requires both the people experiencing it to voice, like, I can't just go on with my day like nothing's happened, whether it's whatever it is. It could be the movement, it could be a death in the family, it could be anything. um, and because the fake, whatever the fake emotion is, becomes a source of disconnect within yourself and misalignment. And certainly over time, I think that behavior can be really damaging, because then you've lost yourself in what's really going on with you and what you need, frankly, as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the thing leads me to, I, I personally think that one of the pillars of being resilient is taking care of your emotional well-being. And when you take,
Sorry, I'm like, yes. Oh, talk about it. Let's talk about it.
to take ownership and responsibility for your emotional well-being is where you're creating the base and the strength to really withstand whatever is coming your way. And that emotional, I think that emotional strength, it's very personal. To me, it's related a lot to healing. And I think I had this conversation with an old friend of mine. And I said, I don't want to stop at healing. I want to be purposeful. And beyond healing, I want to help other people heal or share my experience, because I think that if I stop in healing, then I'm being very selfish because it's all about me. And then she said something that made me think, is that, the world it turns around energy. And if you heal, your family will heal. And then the world will heal. And when you heal yourself, that is going to radiate to whatever is, around you. And you might not have control about who you help or what you help to heal, but by your own process of healing, you are contributing to a greater healing. So I think that is a very important part of well-being, and healing also helps you let things go. It helps you with forgiveness. It helps you with overcoming, which is all. Resilience is all about coming back and overcoming. Your setbacks, and I think that the other thing that is important in your emotional well-being is practicing gratefulness. Um, it's very easy to enter into victim mode and why these things are happening to me, and and I think that once you start practicing gratefulness, even for the smallest things, your emotional well-being like it gets stronger, because then you're less bothered by the things that you may not have, or the things that may have not worked. So and that practice of gratefulness also pushes you to the right amount of positivity, I think. So
Mm.
I think that if there is something that you have control and that you can work on to be a resilient person, is to work on your emotional well-being.
Oof, yeah, I mean, and being able to honor that and not judge it, because I know that, like, personally, as well as my clients, right, like, that we're sad. Like, I'll just say me. I'm sad, and then I'm mad that I'm sad about something, and like that judgment makes that feeling of sadness even worse. Like we're piling on top when we don't need to. So just allowing ourselves to be where we are, and honoring that. I think even just honoring it, like just naming it, can be healing in and of itself. To kind of be able to say, you know what, how am I feeling, and really just identify and then name it and say, oh wait, I'm actually not sad. I'm frustrated, right? And just kind of really being able to name it is huge in and of itself, which sounds silly, but it's so true.
Uh,
Um,
I know, Tosca, and the other thing is that, because of all of these expectations and the positivity and this and that, we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And, there's nothing wrong with being depressed. There's nothing wrong with being angry. There's nothing wrong with one day just walking and thinking that it is worse, it is bad and it could be worse. I think that is also part of what brings perspective in life. What you shouldn't, is to stay in that place of, anger or this and that. And the other thing that I learned with age is that, allow yourself to be vulnerable. Show that inner part, and why you're sad, why you're crying, whatever your feelings are, it's like embrace that vulnerability because, when you wear that Supergirl cape too long, it gives you blisters um, all over your neck. So, so I think that practicing and becoming more connected to that vulnerability and don't punishing yourself with whatever feeling you have, it's also part of that emotional well-being.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I do want to like invite our audience, if you have any questions for Lena during this Talk About It Tuesday, like feel free. We've had a lot of really great comments, even like Shige talks about like expectations like at work that, you leave your issues at the door versus like bringing your whole self to work. And I think culturally, like we're trying to figure out how to really be in the world, in a world where boundaries are getting like more and more blurred. Um, and, you know, one of the things you talked about was, emotional health and then there's also mental health, right? Like, and that there's so much stigma around there's stigma around certain feelings, right? And certain emotions that are expressed, and there's stigma around the real issues around mental health and getting what you need, because we were talking about resilience, right? And so sometimes our bodies are working against us, and um, we need to find out. Sometimes we can't do it all on our own.
Yeah.
And so, with everything that you've been through, all your transitions and changes. I mean, you've lived in I don't know how many countries. How does support play a role in resilience in your mind?
You, well, you have me thinking of I. So first, I think that the same way that I just told you that emotional well-being is for me, one of the pillars of resilience. I think that physical health is too. The way that we take care of our bodies, or either by eating, exercising, this because whatever is not working in your body is going to affect you emotionally. If you have I had a problem with my knee a couple of years ago, and I could feel the emotional, impact of that. Um, and mental health and it's connected to both your physical well-being and your emotional well-being. And I think that I agree with you. There is a lot of stigma. I have been diagnosed with a severe depression in the past when I lost my parents. I lost my father of a heart attack, and less than a year and a half later, I lost my mother from breast cancer. And that threw me into a depression because I didn't process the experience correctly. I didn't grieve enough. And then, and by the same token, and I asked my children permission to share. Both my children have struggled with depression to the point that Andres, even thought of terminating his life. And Andres is my youngest. And we went through all of that process. And while at the beginning he wanted to keep it to himself, he discovered that by opening about it, he could help other people, and he could contribute, breaking the stigma, because being depressed or being anxious or having any mental health, it's not a shame. It's not something that you should be ashamed about. It's something that you need to work on. And that leads me to your circle of support. And your circle of support is very diverse, because your circle of support can be professional, that obviously when it's a condition like a depression, you need to look for professional help, because otherwise you're not going to be able to come out of it. You need to, if you need to take medication, and if my daughter is watching, she will be laughing, because many years back I was totally against medication. And the life experiences and the capacity to adapt and change and understand, learn, and being resilient taught me that if you need to take medication, go ahead and take it because it's what you need. So, I think that we all need a support system. And again, if it is mental health, you should have professionals in your, but if not necessarily you're in mental health, you have to have your circle. And you have to, and I think that you have to be very careful who you choose to be your support system because you need people that contribute to those resilient skills and those resilient ways of looking at life rather than really included in your support system people that drag you down. And you have the choice, you have people where you connect at a soul level, and that's the people in your inner circle, the people that can really hear you and understand you and give you a hand and give you a space to be vulnerable. Then you have the people who you have fun with, and you go out for dinners, and then you have people that you're related to, but not necessarily have a connection. It could be, I don't know, related by blood or just because they have to be in your life. And then you make the decision to love them at a distance and they're not in the circle that we support system. But we all need it. And I today really appreciate all the help I received from my psychiatrist and all of the help that I have received in the past 3 years from my coach. Because she has been there asking the right questions and, putting me in front of my own paradigms and making me face my own limiting beliefs. And all of those are exercises that you should go through when you're building resilience.
Yeah, I mean, like all of it. I'm definitely gonna have to replay this because everything that you're saying, we could go and have like a half an hour conversation at least. And I just want to say, yes, your daughter is here laughing at you and saying hi, and I definitely want to say thank you not only to you but also your children who are comfortable with sharing this truth, this topic that, like you said, there is shame around it. And for those of you who may be watching, if you ever want to work on shame, please check out Brene Brown's work. Her work is so good. She's like a shame researcher, and that in order to obliterate, for some reason that's the word I'm using, shame, is we have to talk about it. Saying it is what can help us heal the shame that we have around whatever it is. And also the thing I want to say is, you talk about being careful about who's in your circle and who you're letting in, especially during challenging times. And I think something that's important is when we heal ourselves and we move to a higher vibration. I know that sounds woo-woo for some people, but when we start to operate at our best selves, then some of the people that are not growing or healing, they may fall out of our circles, and it doesn't feel good necessarily. But part of, I think, of resilience is that you might see that as you are doing your healing and doing the work, that the people around you might look different than they did before, and that's not a bad thing,
No, it's not, and it's a little bit about boundaries. And I think that the other thing is that that I think is important when you are building your resilience is that you learn to detach, to practice detachment. And that could be from people or from goals that you have imposed on yourself that are just leading you in the wrong way. Or, so I think that it's important to practice that detachment and really be very aware and make conscious decisions about, am I moving on from these or am I moving forward from these? So I think that is also, very important when it comes to creating your support system and to, identifying the practices that you are going to put in your life. Because maybe pushing yourself to run 5 miles daily is not the right thing for your body. So you need to detach from that, belief, and just maybe it's yoga, maybe it's Pilates, maybe, So I think that when we become that attached and fixated to some things, it might derail us from the path of resilience.
I love that for a million reasons, and what comes to mind when you talk about non-attachment is that, we can't possibly know what our future holds and what is meant for us. And so, when I think about even my career journeys just coming up, right, and being like attached, like, oh my God, I gotta get this job, like this is the perfect job for me. And then I didn't get it. Well, clearly it wasn't the perfect job for me, but having this attachment brings this energy to everything, like including pressure. And so like practice, like being excited about things is great. Being hopeful, whether it's relationships or career opportunities or whatever, but realizing that like it may not turn out the way we think, or what we attached ourselves to 6 months ago, our current self, who's always changing, may actually want something different now, and it may, and so we have to like detach from what we thought we wanted maybe not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, such an
No,
important topic, non-attachment.
No, non-attachment is, and I go back to my experience when I got laid off. I went into fixing mode because I needed to find a new job. And I went through 7 processes, almost to the end, to end at the same point. It was between another person and me, and there was always the other person. And then I decided to change route, and then that's when I did, real estate, because I just wanted to find another way, because I thought that I was done with corporate America. And but I think that because at the same time I was doing the work, and I kind of detached from that idea. And this is going to sound cuckoo, but I truly believe it. I put all of that energy into the universe, and then the universe did its work. Months later, out of the blue, I get this, invite to participate in the interview process with the company I work now. And I think that looking back, one of the things that helped me the most is that I was detached from the goal of getting the job. And I went through the process, living the process, showing who I was, answering the questions from my heart, and, like truly being present in that interview process, and in that opportunity to learn about that company and to learn about the people that were interviewing me, and to forget about the corporate crafted answers, and being as transparent and as authentic as I could be, because I had lost the offer so many times before that I was detached from that specific thing. And that allowed me to really live the process. And then I think that as a result, I had all of that energy attracting, finally got the offer. And I can fortunately say that I am working in one of the best environments I ever worked. I love what I'm doing. I love the people I work with. And I truly believe that all of the work that I was doing before this presented itself helped me attract that. So my learning or my message to share to people that are listening: live the process. I wish I would have been more aware, and more, that was actually what was happening, that I was doing the work to finally get to what I wanted to go.
Yeah, trust the process. put it on a sticker everywhere. And I think because, that makes me just think, right, there is so little that we have control over. Like we only have control over ourselves and our actions and how we choose to respond or react depending on like where we are in our journeys. But as you were talking about this, you got laid off, you had a hell of a time looking, then you decided to basically start your own enterprise in real estate, and then you landed in a job that you love with a company culture that you love, and just that alone, not to mention everything else that you talked about, like right, going through a divorce and everything with your children and yourself, you know. Um, and I go back to how you very first started this, which was like you realized you had to own your resilience, that you were denying that you were a resilient person. And I love that you're saying like, yeah, like I am resilient actually, and I'm okay talking about it because it's not a brag if it's true. I read that somewhere, right? Like and so the more that we can own our superpowers, that we own our truth and our wisdom and resilience and everything, our strength and all of that, I think the more that we can inspire other people to see the light that they can get through. Because if you just look at your past and what you've accomplished, you already have the evidence you need to know that you will get through the setback, and be able to bounce back. And I just want to thank you for just admitting that it was something that you felt bad about, and now you're like, oh yeah, wait a minute, like I am a badass.
I think that we have this horrible practice or of undermining ourselves.
Mm.
Like, and as you say, if you have a superpower, just enjoy it. And you know, um, I think that I got a lot of inspiration, and I'm going to share a little bit of a personal story. That to own my resilience, my daughter gave me this book for Mother's Day a year ago, and this book, it's the title is "I Love You, Mom, and Here's Why." And then it has prompt questions that takes you, and she will answer the things that she cherishes about me or admires, the things that I scar her for life. But there was one that reads, "You have your own ways of being strong. One of my favorite things about you is the way you aren't afraid to keep pursuing things even when a million doors have been shut in your face." Is what she wrote.
Mm.
And this answer from my daughter was like, "Oh yeah, I am resilient. And if they shoot a door in my face, I'll go through the window and own it from now on. And I don't care, with pride that I am a resilient woman. And you know what? Even if I have gone through difficult experiences, divorce, losing my parents, depression, breakups, losing a job, I am here and I am alive and I have a lot to give and I have two magnificent human beings that call me mom. And someday, not right now, there will be little ones calling me grandma.
No pressure, no pressure, Mike.
But my it's like those experiences have made me who I am. And I am grateful again to have been able to find the people in my life like you and my coach and, that have given me the opportunity to do soul searching and self awareness and, digesting feelings and talking about it and, making things a little bit less like I'm not blind to me, because again, you tend to undermine yourself, so you don't really are, take full awareness of who you are. So I know that life continues to come, and if it is not the coronavirus, might be whatever other situation. So it is important to me to keep working on my emotional muscle. because I don't know what is coming ahead. And I don't want to go and prepare. I want to build that muscle so I keep being resilient for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, Made says that she gave you coops, so you do have a fur grandbaby apparently to give credit to.
Well, I grandkid in the form of a cat.
Yes, they count. They definitely count. Um, and something, you talked about a little bit earlier, this what's the phrase? Emotional muscle, right? And we talked about it the other day around, like, look, Olympic athletes, right? Um, the very first thing that they do is mentally prepare for their journey, like the emotional preparation, the pressure, the everything, right? The daddy's expectations, all that stuff, or whatever. And it's totally known, and nobody questions that. Yeah, you got to get that you got to get your mind right, if you're going to do something like that. But we don't think about life that way. We don't think about setbacks that way. Like, let's take a minute, let's get our minds exercised and working and healthy. Of course, bodies too, like all of it, so that we are ready for the battle or whatever might come our way. And to me, that emotional, it's kind of like why I meditate, like, hopefully every day, but it's not really every day, but whatever, right? Because what I'm trying to do is prepare myself to be able to respond to whatever might come to me that day by finding some space for quietness. So I'm curious, like, what kind of practices you have for that, emotional muscle that you've been able to build and continue to build.
I was gonna make a joke that I just go around the street punching people, but that's not true. No, in the work that I have been doing for the past 3 years, I learned to do like my power hour a day. And my power hour a day is not necessarily 60 minutes, but that power hour, it's either a meditation, which I never thought I was able to do because people who know me, they know I don't shut up. And the same way that I don't shut up, my thoughts neither. So I never thought that meditation was, something for me. And I went from doing meditations of 7 minutes that will drive me crazy to going to 30 minutes. And I went from guided meditations to doing my own meditations to even guiding meditations, once or twice. And again, you don't have to meditate the 30 minutes. There are some days that I just do a short meditation before I get off bed. I don't even have to sit and put the hands and, all of the things. I just do my little meditation before I get off just to connect with what I have to do during the day or to the energy I'm feeling when I wake up. Um, as a Latin woman, sometimes music, it's my emotional food. And then, I'm a true believer that music influences your mood. So, and maybe that's why when I'm gonna clean the apartment, I am, dancing merengue and salsa and, like, but there are some times where I purposely listen to music. I think that the other thing that I actually lost for the first months of all of these quarantine and everything is that I always try to read something that it's food for my soul. Like lately I was able to reconnect with reading. So I have been trying to learn about, the energy in the body and the chakras and how I can keep like a clean energy, if you will. And in other moments of my life, I have read things, written by Brené Brown, but things that really give me food for thought and that are connected to my emotional well-being. And there are people that go to the gym every day, and don't go so extreme with an athletic. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you brush your hair, you take care of the outside. Take 15 minutes to work in the inside. Make it part of your routine. You know, we don't go out without like washing our hairs or whatever. We have a routine to clean our bodies. Well, develop that same routine to keep a clean soul.
Love that. Like, we need to get this out there to the masses. Like, oh my God, it's like so, you know, it just reminds me of the whole concept of like being versus doing. That we have it backwards in in this life. That we focus so much on the being or the doing, the go go go, that we don't stop and say like, how can I just be and slow down and clear up, like you said, like clear up what's inside, like the emotional hangovers and the like, what mindset am I in right now, and is that going to serve me as I go into like whatever dinner with my husband, or is it going to serve me like as I have a difficult conversation with a colleague, and we don't think of that as like the stuff that we should put on our checklists every day. But I love how we should get Sephora in here. Like, we got to get them to do a campaign. Come on, like, put it on the outside and do the work on the inside. Come on, we can do this.
You know what? Being honest, there are days that I fail in doing it because I oversleep a little and then I have a lot of things to do for work and whatever. But at the beginning, I used to punish myself, like, oh my God, I'm not practicing my power hour, and then like I'm a bad person. No, if one day I just get distracted by life, then I'll do it the next day. So my point is that you don't need another source of stress in your life. So it's like, don't put the power hour in your calendar and make it like, it's a commitment to yourself. And if one day you just don't do it, you didn't, and you restart the next day, and um, there's another thing that they have recommended a lot that I have tried, but it's the thing that like challenged my discipline a little bit more, and it's journaling. And I thought of journaling when you were talking about like processing feelings. There are some times that it's just not worth it to respond to somebody, or you're getting into a conversation that is going to get nowhere, and you make the choice to stay quiet, just not to then journal it and clean it. And I guess my message is like, look for ways to cleanse that. I do fall sometimes in the mistake of putting things under the rug and maybe eating up my feelings, so I don't and I need to work on that. That is part of the journey of keeping high level of emotional well-being. But at least I'm aware of it. So I'm um, and that's another part. You could be very early in the process, and it's not a race to develop all of these skills, to be resilient or to overcome. It's not a race. You have to work it at your own pace, and just figure it out little by little, and don't put more pressure than you need to on yourself.
Oof, I love that. And it makes me think of, what I say, be kind to yourself, right? Like, what you're talking about is practicing kindness and compassion for yourself, and not beating yourself up when you get you get off the railroad and, and look, I'm just saying, look, and I'm a coach, and so I like, kind of preach this stuff all day, and I will always be working on my shit, and, it's same as you, right? It's everybody, right? Like, nobody's got it. Like, there is no perfect, there is no such thing as perfect, and there is no such thing as all the time. Like, that's just so excessive. And I love, like, I always say, like, kind of even micro moments. Hi, Maru. So good to have you join. Um, these micro moments of, like, look, even if you are in the shower and can take 3 seconds to take a deep breath for yourself, that is huge. Just start there. And, I think sometimes we get a little intimidated by, and you talked about it too, right? It's like, you're in bed, you're laying down, you're doing a little meditation. It doesn't have to be your legs crossed. It doesn't have to be like, it can be whatever you can do, wherever you can do it. And in my opinion, right, this all comes to mindfulness, right? This all comes to, like, are we walking through life intentionally and knowing what we're doing, the impact that we're having on ourselves and the people around us? And so, in my opinion, like, the day that I can be mindful all day is the day that I don't need to sit down in front of an altar and, like, meditate, because I'm doing it all the time, like, I'm in the present moment all the time. Like, to me, that's one of the goals, is to be present in the moment, because that's when you can have all your resources, and to this whole respond versus react, it becomes more accessible when
Yeah.
you're in the moment.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I think, Tosca, that being present in the moment is also allowing yourself to be lazy, or, don't do the meditation that day, or, it's like, it's the connection with your emotional need.
Yeah.
Connection to, like, I am going to feed my soul what it needs, and taking the pressure a little bit off. Um, and so many times we auto-impose that pressure, because
Yeah.
nobody is taking a test as, oh, you have been working with your emotional health.
When that gets on the checklist, when that gets on the review, the yearly review, we've succeeded.
I think that if I talk, and you're a coach, but if I talk about my experience with my coach, she holds me accountable when she and I have had a conversation that I need to work on something, or that so I do put some pressure, but because it is important to me, not because I am delivering against the expectations of somebody else.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that, you probably face the same thing with some of the people that you coach. At some point, you have to hold them accountable for the work they're doing with you.
Yeah, and actually, and part of it is checking in on accountability. Um, it's not about shaming somebody if you didn't do it. It's about understanding what was the resistance. What was the block? Because that's all that matters. If you didn't do it, that's okay. There's actually information in there. You didn't prioritize it, or whatever it was. Like, you actually were fighting yourself. But that's, that's part of, I think, accountability, which is understanding what's getting done, what's not. And then you can really identify, what do you really value in getting done? And what's in your way, and what do you have to, like, get out of your way in order to make progress and move forward. As you said earlier, not move on, but move forward.
Go forward.
Um,
And there's some of the heart of resilience by what you just said, because by going through that process of really learning and identifying what held you from doing something, it's where you discover what you need to work on, and what is it, the skill, or the practice, or whatever that you need to learn to overcome, and move on from that. And so that discovery, it's part of, developing all of these resilience skills.
yes, the obstacle is the path. The
Exactly.
obstacle is the path. So we have less than a minute left, and I want to just say, Thank you again so much for joining. If people want to connect with you, like what, can they do that? How would you recommend doing that?
I would prefer that they DM me on Instagram, and if the conversation gets going, I will have no problem in sharing my email or my phone number. But the initial contact, I would think, I would prefer uh, a direct message in Instagram.
Okay, that sounds awesome. You shared so many golden nuggets, and I just want to say that by you being here, you've definitely touched a lot of lives that you don't even know yet. So thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. I really enjoy it.